I was just very inspired by what I read on your bio and wanted to learn more. And it seems you're doing really good work, and I know you're passionate about it. So I wanted to
Yeah,
share what you do with everyone.
thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Living Well podcast, where we discuss all things health, wellness, and yoga. I'm your host, Michelle Martone. So today I have a friend and also another yoga practitioner here with me as a guest, Sonya Matthysee. We met some years ago through yoga. She is a Master Restorative Wellness Practitioner and is board certified in holistic nutrition. She helps high performing active business professionals access the right lab tests and resources to restore their energy so they can soar in their career and fully enjoy their transition to retirement. I think we all want that. You start your website sort of with what seemed to me like some positive affirmations.
Hmm.
And as you know, we're currently, and we have been for the last 5 years, working on restoring the soil health here on our property. And we're trying to grow as much of our own fresh food, vegetables, fruits, as much of it as we can. So the first line in your bio, and I'll just quote you, you say, I believe in the power of clean, whole, unprocessed quality food. Food is fun, colorful, curious, satisfying, and delicious as it is nutritious. Food brings families, friends, and communities together and bonds us in the human experience like few other things can in life. And I just feel that so wholeheartedly and agree with all those things. And maybe you can share with listeners some of your other core beliefs.
Yeah, sure. That'd be lovely. That is true. That's exactly how I feel about food. It's such an important part and it nourishes our body, right? And that's what I think is another part of my core belief is our bodies are a gift and we need to honor that and diligently care for it. I think we often don't really think about what a marvel the body is and how hard it works to keep us in balance. But when you think
Yes.
about all the processes at play, I mean, just to be breathing, it's breathtaking.
Yes.
And don't forget how our bodies carry us through life and to all of our destinations in life. And that's not even the entire picture. If you layer in our brains, our mental health, and the state of our mental well-being, the miracle of our existence is just truly remarkable.
I completely agree with you.
Another part of my beliefs and a really core part is that, we have so much in common as human beings, so even during these really divisive times. I think that's clear. But we're also amazingly and breathtakingly unique as well. Whether that
Hmm.
comes from the standpoint of our specific genetics or just pure bio individuality, we each need to really find what works and resonates for our individual person.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, wellness and wellness education has a lot of fundamental concepts, but it's really not a one size fit all concept in my mind. Uh,
Yes.
you honor the fundamentals and then you need to tailor them to your own individuality. And that's the key to being able to thrive through life.
Hmm. So I have read a bit about your personal story just through your website, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you wound up where you are today, kind of the path that led you to being a nutritionist.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do like I do with my clients, which is I ask them to go all the way back to the beginning. So I'm going to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
I was really a fairly healthy child, even though I was growing up in what I call the convenience food revolution. It's like carnation, instant breakfast, TV dinners, hamburger helper, all that stuff. And I managed to thrive through that part of it. But, during my teen years, things really got challenging very quickly. I started to mature physically a bit later than most of my peers, but it all kind of started with a stubborn case of acne. And that resulted in me going to the doctor several times. And I got one antibiotic, go back the next time I would get a different antibiotic. So, there was a number of trips where this happened. So I had several rounds, as a preteen, a teen, with antibiotics, which ultimately just destroyed my gut flora. And it never actually really got the acne under control.
Mm.
So then as I continued to mature, my menses started, and it just became pure misery. The timing was never really predictable, but that wasn't even the worst part. Every cycle started with this acne, a big acne episode, and then it was followed by this extreme cramping, heavy bleeding, gas, everything horrible you can think of. I even fainted a couple of times. I mean,
Oh no. How old were you?
I was 14.
Oh, you're so young.
Yeah, it was a lot for a 14 years old. In fact, it was
Yes.
so bad that I even contemplated, like, maybe, that first day was really the worst. And I thought maybe I should just stay in bed the first day of every cycle because it was
Yeah.
too much chaos to manage, to go out in the world with all that going on.
I still feel like that. I still feel like maybe just one day a month I need to retreat from the world a bit and just like have my own she shed kind of cave moment for 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea to give ourselves that reprieve because there's a lot of input if you're going out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then as a young woman, as I started to, really progress into adulthood, other things started happening. Like I was losing hair around my temples. Went
Mm.
to the doctor for that, and I got a diagnosis of alopecia, which, there's no cure for, there's nothing they can do. There was a few things they could do, but it was, try this gel, try this cream. Oh, you could get some shots in your scalp, this kind of thing, which I wasn't a fan of. And, the acne continued to be a continuing issue and dominating my world. And then it turned actually cystic.
Mm.
So I had my face and my back were just covered with huge cysts. Uh, that nothing would manage. And so I took a round of Accutane. I don't know if you've ever heard about that, but
Yeah, I'm a pharmacist. I
oh, yes,
dispensed it many times.
right. And as you know, that is a pretty strong,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
and yeah, I don't even
It's
know.
so harsh.
Right. Do they even prescribe it anymore? I'm not sure about
Yes, yeah, they still do. And it
that.
causes still for some people such bad dry skin, like
Yeah.
where the lips are flaking and
Yes.
cracking. It's really harsh on the body.
Yeah. Yeah. I went through all that and I did a round and a half of that. The second round, they realized that it was altering my liver markers too much, and they said you have
Oh,
to take it, right?
can I ask you, do you know, did your mother have any similar challenges like this once she
Yeah, I
started?
don't because my mother passed when I was a child, so I don't have that background, right? I don't have that. I
Okay.
couldn't get uh, it's nice to know that stuff because you can refer to your mother later in life and understand, like, what was menopause like for you?
Yeah.
I'm going way down the road there, but anyhow,
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, yeah, it's my life. Um, so what happened after that was, oh, then I developed some complications from scoliosis, which for anyone listening who doesn't know what that is, it's basically a curvature of your spine that causes your body to be permanently out of alignment. So I had like an S curve in my spine. And I had developed this as a child.
Okay.
Uh, so the doctors had deemed this as I think they called it really they were saying it was sciatica, which basically presented as extreme pain that radiated from my right hip down to my ankle. And I could hardly walk. I mean, I couldn't get around and I couldn't even lay in bed comfortably because the pain was constant and throbbing and debilitating. And so uh, it just was collectively, as a young woman, I really wasn't enjoying my life at all. And this
Mm-hmm.
impact ran really deep, both physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a lot to deal with as a young person.
Yes. That would be a lot for anyone, even a mature adult, to have to face all those challenges. And as
Yeah.
a child, that's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot, and it was the drivers that took me where I am today, is solving and managing those problems. That's how I really got my desire to go into nutrition, because my journey it just sort of never ended. It evolved over time as I kept going to doctor after doctor, getting drug after drug, not having any results. And then I started trying to figure out how there has to be a way. And I didn't even know, anything about holistic nutrition, or even the power of nutrition and exercise. But I just knew that I was too young to spend my whole life in this kind of pain and misery.
Hmm. So you just mentioned nutrition and also exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you mentioned you gave up your cigarette habit and used
Yeah,
exercise as a distraction every time you had a nicotine craving. And I'm
yeah,
interested to know what kind of exercise you started doing, and also when did you start practicing yoga?
yeah. Yeah. At that time, I didn't have any money and I didn't know anything about yoga. So the only thing I could do when I started having those cigarette cravings, I turned on the radio and danced around my living
What
room.
kind of music did you dance to?
Oh, at the time, I'm guessing it was probably like funk, funk, or maybe a little disco. It was whatever.
Yeah.
And it didn't really matter as long as it was upbeat and positive. I just kept going. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So you started with dancing.
yeah. Started with dancing, and I would just dance until I sweat, and it just felt so good and so joyous. So I would just keep going.
That's
What
great, Sonia.
I didn't realize then, but now I do when I get back. It's like dance was helping me. I was dancing to the point of sweating. That was actually helping me to detoxify the horrific chemicals that I put in
Yeah,
my body with the
exactly.
cigarettes, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And then it had an additional benefit of also, raising my dopamine levels. And it just made me feel great, happy, upbeat. So, it was then that I really learned to use movement, not only just to shut down those cigarette cravings, but also just as a pick me up for mood and spirit. I mean, it just made a
Hmm.
difference in how I felt.
It's interesting, when I teach, there's often people who don't want to sweat in their yoga practice. And it's
Yeah.
so healthy. It's part of the way our bodies detox and cleanse, is
Yeah.
pushing toxins out like that and being able to sweat. And yeah, it's an important part of keeping us in balance.
Yeah, I hear the same thing a lot with my clients. They don't like to sweat. That's what they say. I don't like to sweat. But, it's really hard for me to explain how beneficial it is. Like, I know it's uncomfortable for a minute, but you might learn to love it if you really understood what it was doing in your body. Right.
Yeah, my brother is like that. We grew up in Miami, and
Mhm.
I love the heat and the humidity and the
Yes.
tropical weather, but he moved all the way to Seattle, Washington, and he hates to sweat.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
different, right?
very different. Yeah, I loved the beach, be in the water, lay in the sand. He didn't like to sweat. He didn't like sand on him. So he definitely moved to the right place to have a
Yeah,
climate that agrees with him.
right. Yeah. Well, it wasn't actually until later that I had discovered yoga. And initially, it wasn't this great epiphany about how yoga could help me, physically and mentally. Uh,
Hmm.
it was just, after years of actually seeking a cure for all that pain I was talking about in my hip, I finally got some good advice from a doctor that really helped point me in the right direction. So she told me that for my back pain, that I should swim, because it would strengthen my back and that it would help me with the pain. Well,
Oh,
I'm not a swimmer, so I just joined a 24-hour fitness gym and I took every aerobics class they had until I
water
finally
aerobics?
no, just regular fast pace, step classes,
Yeah.
uh, aerobic Zumba type stuff, right?
Yeah, I teach a seniors wellness fitness class, and it's kind of like a low impact aerobics, a little bit dancing, Zumba.
Oh, spectacular. That's
Yeah.
so good to have access to that.
What
Really.
other types of exercise did you try
Well,
besides the
I
aerobics?
I actually ended up in a yoga class there. And,
Oh, okay.
it was like I got tired or bored of the aerobics. I needed something new. I saw yoga on the schedule. So I wandered into a yoga class one day and positioned myself in the back of the class so I wouldn't be so obvious. It was like my first time.
Mm,
And, I just was doing my thing and I don't really know what was going on then, but the instructor actually appeared to be pretty highly concerned about my performance in the back of the room to the point where she was genuinely, like I could see she was genuinely concerned about my well-being. So I must
mm.
not have been doing like anything well.
Well, that's common when we start a practice for the first time.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I didn't really understand that then. So, I kind of walked away thinking that yoga wasn't for me because I wasn't good at it.
Mm.
And it wasn't until several years later when I had moved to a new area and I had discovered a Bikram yoga studio in my new neighborhood. And I went to that class, and that's when I fell in love with yoga.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I like that practice a lot too because it keeps your hips pretty square the whole time, and it's great for people who have sensitivities in the spine. I have arthritis in my
Mhm.
lower back and my SI joint, and I did that practice 4 times a week for many years, probably like 8 or 9 years, just that
Yeah.
practice. And it helped so much to
Right.
just strengthen my core, strengthen my back, and it relieved a lot of the back pain that I had.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same. I mean, that's, what the doctor ordered actually. I couldn't swim, but I could definitely do this standing still, doing the different poses. And then again, just like we talked about earlier, then it's 105 degrees in that room, you're
Yeah.
sweating.
Yeah.
It was major. It just solved so much for me in terms of my own genetics. Even I'm a slow detoxifier. And then, of course, this need to have a core strength to keep my back from being in pain. So, yeah,
Are you able to tell from genetics if someone is a slow detoxifier?
yes, you can tell from genetics. There are certain SNPs or variations that are associated with an inability to process certain types of toxins. So
Oh, interesting.
that's how I learned about, my own. I ran my own genetics a couple of years ago, or a year ago, actually. I just started offering this to my clients where, it gives you a really amazing picture. And I use it as a roadmap for building a healing protocol for my clients because it looks at 36 different pathways and systems of the body and gives you insights into, what's your cardiovascular health, how is your cholesterol processing, whether you have issues with blood clotting, how is your energy expenditure, do you burn it efficiently or not. It covers certain nutrients. I mean, it's a wealth of information that I've used to help define how I'm going to manage myself through my life, right? It's very, very helpful assessment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. So that's one part of what you offer to your
It's
clients is first looking at those genetic markers.
yes, yes.
Okay. You mentioned at one point in your bio that your lifestyle was starting to overtake some of the health benefits you had achieved.
Mhm.
And this was right around the time you enrolled in the Holistic Nutrition College.
Yes.
What was going on in your life at that time?
Yeah. Well, at that point, spent a number of years developing my career, and I had established myself quite well as a heavy hitter in accounting. I worked for public companies as revenue director, which was a very high visibility role and very, very demanding. So all my time and energy was really dedicated to achieving accounting perfection in these areas and just meeting really aggressive reporting deadlines. And it all was really critical that these deadlines were met. So as I climbed the ladder, I kind of started letting go of my self-care. Uh, and all my time was really dedicated to work. Exercise became less of a priority. My diet got spotty. And before I knew it, I was in a state of total burnout. I was mentally depleted, physically depleted. I was a mess. Couldn't think my way out of a paper bag. And it was just horrifying.
Were you living out here in the Bay Area then?
I was.
Okay.
And, I was ambitious in the sense that, I would think, oh, well, after I mastered a job in 3 years, I would, progress to another more bigger challenge. And, so I was kind of sinking myself as I was climbing the ladder, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but at that time, when I finally realized that it was pretty late in the game, and I was pretty useless. So I finally quit my job. And I sat on the couch for about 6 months trying to figure out how to get my energy back and how to get myself back to good health.
You were just totally burnt out and
Yes.
depleted.
Yeah. And that's where Bowman College started to help, because it really focused me. And I thought, I have been passionate about food and exercise and lifestyle for such a long time, but I didn't have the formal training behind it. So this was, giving me the confidence to understand that the strategies that I had picked up, through reading books and all that were actually even more powerful than what I understood, and not only allowed me to help myself, but put me in a position to be able to help others.
Mm-hmm.
Because my story, I think, is not unique. I think a lot of people go through that same type of thing where they, push themselves, burn themselves out, don't prioritize their self-care. And the next thing you know, they're ill. Right?
Yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about what you offer to your clients. I know that you do a detox cleanse program,
Mm-hmm.
and I also know the estimated dropout rate for these programs is somewhere estimated between 20 to 30%. And when I've done fast and cleanses, having the support of my roommates or my husband, and then also giving myself enough time to mentally prepare and like build up my willpower a bit and really commit to it, has
Yeah.
made a huge difference. So what kind of recommendations do you have for all of us to set ourselves up for success with these types of cleanse detox programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I think you hit it on the head pretty squarely right there. Your mindset and your mental preparation are key, right? The detox programs that I run are basically focused on eating clean, unprocessed foods, and reducing your toxic load, uh, and allowing your body some time to rest so it can release some of those toxins that are stored in your body.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing, people typically do is complain about what they cannot eat. And I
Yeah.
try to encourage people to focus on what you can eat and what those specific foods are doing for your body.
Yeah,
So
just changing their mindset slightly to think of what they can eat and to get excited about that.
exactly, frame it as an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to love and support your body and give it a much needed rest, as opposed to focusing on the fun that you're missing out on, right?
Yeah. Are
So the
there
other thing,
any, sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
I'm just going to say the other thing I would recommend is that always have a plan, right? Don't walk into a detox thinking, okay, I'm going to wing it. If
Yeah.
you have others in your home, like you were doing, like you mentioned, having the support of your husband, talk with them, let them know what you're doing. If you can recruit them to participate with you, even better. If
Yes.
not, that's fine. But, explain what you're doing, for how long, ask for their support, whatever that looks like, for for me, I have to ask my husband not to bring, he knows my weakness is a potato chip. So I'm like, please don't bring a potato chip into the house while I'm doing a cleanse.
Hmm.
Make me happy, but I'm like, no, not a happy day.
Does your husband ever do it with you?
He does. And, I try to keep it really reasonable and do a shorter cleanse as opposed to the annual cleanse that I do is basically 28 days. But he actually enjoys the benefits of doing it. And I try to make the food just really tasty, right? So just
Hmm.
because you're cleansing doesn't mean that the food has to be bland, right?
Yeah. I always have the feeling when I'm done with a cleanse, like very euphoric. I
Yeah,
tell my husband I feel like a superhero by the end. The beginning of it, of course, the headaches and sometimes a little fatigued and just a little like grumpy kind of dragon. But
yeah.
but then you really feel so light, and I've always noticed the mental clarity that I get
Hmm.
from it. I think it's because you don't have the excess calories to be like spending doing any kind of nonsense. You get hyper focused and very clear mentally. That's the some of the biggest advantages I've seen when I've done these.
Yeah, and that makes sense because as you're, detoxing, you're letting go of these toxins that are clouding your mind, your brain function, right? And
Mhm.
so that feeling of euphoria, I get it, right? It's like the body saying, "Oh, thank you," and your body's not working as hard to remove all those chemicals, right? So it can more
Yeah.
focus on doing the things to really support you. So yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said about, you feel like you feel, I can't remember the words you use, but basically you feel like a rock star because you've done
Yeah.
this thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it feels good. You feel proud of yourself and confident and a little lighter and more clear in the mind. You really feel like you're living better.
and so I really believe, I always tell people like when you're doing this cleanse, celebrate celebrate the victory. You want to celebrate the big victory of completing the cleanse, but celebrate the little victories in between. This is where your self-talk becomes very important. So
That's such good advice, Sonia.
yeah, I mean, I have a lot of clients who'll just beat themselves up. Oh, I went off plan. I'm over. I'm quitting. No, if you go off plan for a minute, don't quit and don't beat yourself up. Acknowledge it and move on. Get back to the plan. Vocalize to yourself and others, when you do a great job and stop worrying about, the one slip that you have.
Yeah, that's great. I know you also have done some workshops, right? One on the gut, maybe one was on menopause.
Yeah. And it's I have so much I want to share with people about optimizing health and my approach to wellness. So it always just makes sense for me to start where I foundationally start with all of my clients, which is with gut health, because having an imbalanced gut can basically lead to disruption in so many other areas of the body, hormone balance, and that may present in a variety of different ways, like your sleep quality, brain fog, or thyroid dysfunction, your inability to lose weight, all the things, because it's all connected. So I
Mm-hmm.
really always foundationally start with the gut. And if you can resolve that, sometimes most other things will resolve, or if not, you need to do more work.
I saw you also have some new writings coming up about aging well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't released any of the blog yet, but really what I'm including are basically tips on increasing longevity through your proper diet, proper eating, lifestyle, and supplementation strategies. So I'll run the gamut of everything from brain exercise, stress management, and what to eat, as well as provide some insights on what the lab testing that I do to help people dial into their core things that are causing the problem, the root causes of what's causing their imbalances, so we can help them dial in to what strategies will work for them on both a short-term and a long-term basis.
Mm-hmm. I love that you include the genetic workup and some lab results because it's helpful for a lot of people to see some numbers, to see on paper where they're at, where, how their body's functioning. And
Yeah.
then as they continue through your program, to see how those things have changed.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing. The genetic tests, I want to be clear, they're not diagnostic. They don't tell you whether or not you're going to get a certain disease. What they tell you is what the possibilities are. And then they're also markers that are highly influenced by diet and lifestyle changes. So meaning there's lots you can do to prevent from going down that pathway. So it's just a really foundational groundwork to doing any work. And so I'm actually building it into my packages where I do it with every client when I'm doing a healing protocol for them.
That's great. Well, I've really enjoyed hearing about the work that you do and also getting to know you a little bit more through this. How can people learn more about you or get a hold of you if they would like to work with you?
Yeah, easy. You can head on over to my website, which is www.purelymylife.com, and click on request a free consult to send me an email, and I'll get you a link to my calendar, set up a consultation for 15 or 20 minutes where we can get to know each other a little bit.
So good. Thank you, Sonya.
Thank you, Michelle. It's been amazing speaking with you. I hope that we
Likewise.
talk some more about many things, and especially
Yes.
yoga and how that integrates into some of the nutrition stuff that I have questions about.
Yeah, I would love that. I look forward to seeing you when you're back.
Yes, thank you so much. Me too. Have a great
Okay.
holiday.
Thank you. Bye, Sonya.
Bye.
If you're interested to learn more about my programs, please visit my website, www.michellemartoneyoga.com. We have a few virtual home retreats coming up, some new virtual classes added, and there's also spots in the yoga retreat to Greece next summer, and I would love to have you. Please send me an email if you're interested. Have a great day. Bye.